It's plated trainer season. Let's talk about which one is going to take the crown. Today we're comparing the Boston 13 with the Mach X3. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Today, like I said, we're making this comparison of plated trainers, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this video, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate it if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, because I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. Quick disclaimers and disclosures though, I was provided both of these shoes for the purpose of a review directly from Adidas with these ones, and then with the Mach X3, I actually got them as I am a multi-test reviewer for a written review website called WeViews. So either way, I'm not paid to make this video. I do want to disclose though that I am paid as a writer for WeViews on their multi-review panel. That being said, I don't have direct contact with Hoka in these instances, and I'm definitely not paid to create these, right? Either way, I'm not giving talk tracks, talking points, nothing along those lines. All thoughts are entirely my own. With that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these two shoes. Now, the Boston 13 and the Mach X3 are going to be plated trainers. Now, they both have their unique takes, which we'll talk about, but for the most part, they are made for speed, whether that be short and fast or that be tempo. And also, if you want to race in them, you probably can, but for the most part, they're training shoes. Now, from a price standpoint, there actually is a decent gap here. So the Mach X3 comes in at $190, which honestly, I do feel like is high for this category. I'm not sure why Hoka chose to price it at that tier, especially because the Boston 13, I think, is going to be one of, if not the lowest priced in category at $160. So same intended use. Honestly, we'll talk about it, but similar cushioning setups in terms of like premium, like midsole experience, but a $30 price tag difference is pretty big, to be honest. Now, from a specs perspective, the Boston 13 comes in at 9 ounces and 255 grams, which is, in my opinion, pretty typical for the plated trainer range. There are some that are a little bit lower, but it's hard with the amount of foam as well as stiffening elements in the foam to get them a little bit lighter. Speaking of not lighter, the Mach X3 is 10.2 ounces, which is 289 grams, so over an ounce heavier than the Boston 13. From a stack standpoint, the 13 comes in at 37 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 7mm drop. Now, I did get these measurements from Running Warehouse, where they measure independently. I believe that the Boston is advertised as 36 in the heel, and then the Mach X3 is 46 in the heel, 41 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop, excuse me. But again, I do believe Hoka lists this one technically at 44 in the heel. Now, from a fit perspective, I would say that the Boston maybe fits a little bit short. It feels like it's in between. It's in between sizes. So I think if you half size up, it might be too big, but if you kept it where it's at, it may feel a little bit too short. I took my normal true to size 10.5, and I'm not having any issues with it, but I do feel like, similar to something like the Evo SL, it's going to be a little bit tiny short for you. Now, from a width standpoint though, unlike the Evo SL, I actually feel like it's a little bit narrow in the forefoot. As far as the toe box, I think I'd say probably more standard, and the heel's probably more standard. With the Mach X3, I would say fits true to size, like true to size lengthwise. I would not consider half sizing up or down. I feel like it does fit snug in that midfoot area as well. A little bit of more of a standard toe box. I think it's a little bit wider than the Boston 13, the toe box, and then a standard heel as well. Now, moving to the uppers, the Boston 13 has an engineered mesh upper, which, you know, it's breathable for the most part. It is a little bit rigid, if I can, I'm not sure exactly the exact way to explain that, but you know, you have some TPU overlays there in the toe box, which are going to give you a little bit of toe protection, but probably you don't need that much in my opinion, but it gives it a little bit of structure. The upper is going to be very breathable, and then you have a nice, actually cushioned, fairly comfortable heel. I do feel like some people may have some irritation just with like these, like where that cushion, that stitching is on that heel area, but for the most part, I had no issues with it, and I feel like they really did a good job of balancing breathability and cushion in the upper. The tongue is fully gusseted, which I love, allows you to get good lockdown. The tongue is maybe a little bit short. You know, those who didn't like the upper of the Evo SL, I feel like the Boston 13 upper is going to be a lot better for you. And I'm actually going to do that comparison, by the way, Evo SL versus Boston 13, because I had a lot of questions on the overlap between those two shoes, but that's not what this video is about. This one's about the 13 and the Mach X3. So comparing to the Mach X3, you have a warp knit upper, which I feel like should be similarly breathable to the Boston 13, but I do feel like it's a little bit warm. There's a little bit more cushion in that heel, and the tongue is not gusseted, which is annoying. But the tongue also is a little bit long, so you maybe have a slightly shorter tongue in the 13, slightly longer tongue in the Mach X3. The cushioning is only slightly more than the Boston 13 in that heel. The tongue, same thing, a little bit more cushioned. But I do feel like the Boston 13 is maybe a little bit better lockdown, but a little bit less comfortable, versus the Mach X3 is going to be a little bit more comfortable. Still good lockdown, but not quite as streamlined of an upper experience. In my opinion, this feels a little bit more daily trainer-esque, still comfortable, but a little bit more geared towards comfort, a little bit less geared towards speed, and I do feel like it's adding additional weight. Moving to the midsole, so interesting experience. You got the Light Strike Pro midsole. I do believe it is the TPEE version, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then you have actually a EVA TPU blend on the base layer. So you have a responsive race foam top layer, a firmer base foam or firmer bottom foam there for stability, and then you have carbon fiber. Actually, these are fiberglass rods, excuse me. Fiberglass rods which run through the shoe. So they don't use a plate, they do use rods for the most part in Adidas speed-oriented shoes. Meanwhile, over on the Mach X3, similar overall setup. So you have an EVA carrier foam on bottom, you have a PIBA upper responsive foam up top, and then you do have a Pebax plastic plate which runs through the shoes. So, you know, from a stability standpoint, I say that the Mach X3 probably takes it. From a responsiveness standpoint, snappiness standpoint, I think that the Boston 13 takes it. I find the Boston to be, I think, more oriented towards top end speed, shorter, faster repeats, 400 meter repeats, 200 meter repeats, sprints. And I find, and again, that's if you're not using spikes, obviously, right? And then for the, you know, for the Mach X3, I feel like it fits a little bit better in tempo. So I think you could have both of these shoes in a rotation where the Boston's going to be the shorter, faster one. The Mach X3 is going to be longer run workouts. But I actually think that both of them are kind of capable of doing the other, just they're not going to shine as well in those categories. Definitely from a stability standpoint, Mach X3 takes it. Boston 13, I don't feel like is necessarily like inherently unstable. It doesn't roll. Again, I'll do a comparison of the Evo SL, but it doesn't kind of roll. I feel like the Evo SL is actively unstable. I feel like the Boston kind of leans similarly that way underfoot, but not quite to that same extent due to how the midsole is shaped. But anytime that you're running fast and you get that kind of rebound, that kind of snap, you're not really going to get the stability in return. So I would potentially recommend the Mach X3 for those who need stability and want speed. I would not necessarily recommend the Boston 13 for that use case. Now moving to the outsoles, Boston 13 has, you know, the Continental rubber in some portions, but they actually have started using some of their own rubbers, which is called a light traction grip. So I believe that everything is that light traction grip except for kind of that one spot there in that forefoot area. To be honest, I'm not sure why they've started to do this, and maybe the light traction is just this outer layer, this gray one, and then this black one is all Continental. Traditionally, Continental rubber I think does a really good job, and actually just like touching it, like it is very grippy there in that forefoot area, that toe off area. I think my guess is that that's going to be a little bit more durable in those areas. It does seem to be a little bit thicker, and then in less of those high touch areas, that's where you get the same. They're probably looking for something that's a little bit lighter weight, but is still going to give a similar grip experience. Boston 13, I felt like the grip has done a really good job. I've been overall impressed with this shoe. I was a little skeptical, to be honest, because I just thought, like, I love the Evo SL. I feel like the Evo SL is actually more similar, though, to the Mach X3 in terms of uses, right? I feel like where it's maybe lacking a little bit is in the short and fast. So I actually think that the Boston 13 complements it really well, the same way that these could complement each other really well as speed options, right? The outsole of the Mach X3, it's kind of a standard Hoka speed-oriented outsole, so it's going to be the zonal rubber. I haven't had any issues with it, though there is maybe some slight durability concern on the heel area there, as it does seem to be wearing down faster than I would have expected. But for the most part, both of them have really good grip, get the job done, and I've really enjoyed both shoes. So As far as my pick between the two, I think it's obvious in this conversation. When I'm looking for a plated trainer, I want something that's going to be a little bit snappy. I don't necessarily want it to be a shoe that is just okay at things. I want it to shine in a specific area, and I do like to feel that pop. So I feel like the Boston 13 is actively like a very fast shoe. I haven't had a chance to run in a lot of the Boston line. I think the 12 was probably more Mach X3-esque from what I've heard, but the 13 I think is a really good snappy speed option. Could be a short, fast race option depending on your preferences as well. So I lean towards the Boston 13. I also think that the price tag difference of 160 versus 190 makes that a lot more palatable. And then if you want to pair the, the Boston with the Evo SL, with the Pro 4, I feel like Adidas does a phenomenal job of having that feeling of continuity through their entire lineup. So the Adizero line, right, it's the Adizero Boston 13, right? It fits right there. It's very, very comfortable within that lineup. The silhouettes all look the same. I actually had someone ask me if this was the Evo SL, and it's not, obviously. So I really like what Adidas has put out this year. I love the lineup. Love to see kind of what they're doing. So Mach X3 I don't think is a bad shoe by any means. I think it's a really, really good shoe, to be honest. I wish it was a little bit lighter. I'm one of the few where the upper of the Mach X2 actually did work for me. It didn't cause me issues. So they went up almost a full ounce for this upper, and I feel like they could have found a middle ground. But I do feel like it's one of the more versatile plated trainers on the market. So don't sleep on this, especially if you need some level of stability. But for me, Boston 13 is king in this matchup. So if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what questions you have, what you liked, what other comparisons you'd like to see. Also, quick plug, if you watched this far and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today. Turn on those notifications. You get notified every time I drop a new video. It's typically Monday through Friday. And also, if you'd like to help me raise money for the Tokyo Marathon through the Sports Legacy Foundation 2, which is the charity organization that I am partnered with, please consider using the GoFundMe link below or any of the affiliate links, as they will give me a kickback, and I'm going to put that directly back into charity until we raise that money. So we're just going to wrap up here with a question, which is, what has been your favorite plated trainer of 2025? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.